I saw something which I thought was pretty disturbing. A book that was written in a way that's apparently pro-President Obama was written by a guy named Noam Schreiber. And in this book, he says that there was a discussion about the fact that Obamacare would slow down the economic recovery in this country. And they knew that before they passed it. The idea that they knowingly slowed down our recovery in order to put in place Obamacare, which they wanted and they considered historic, but the American people did not want or consider historic, is something which I think deserves a lot of explaining.
You know what I think deserves a lot of explaining? The fact that Noam Schreiber's book does not say that, which Mr. Schreiber very pleasantly pointed out the first time that Mitt Romney said that untrue thing about the book. But Mr. Romney is sticking with it. Health reform is not expected to slow economic growth. There's no evidence that the Obama White House thought that health reform would slow economic growth. Noam Schreiber's book does not say that the Obama White House thought that health reform would slow economic growth. None of those things is true. And none of that appears to bother the man who keeps saying it. Joining us now is a guy you might have heard of, named Noam Schreiber, senior editor at The New Republic and the author of The Escape Artists, How Obama's Team Fumbled the Recovery, which is a starring role in the Mitt Romney Misunderstanding Book Club this week. Mr. Schreiber, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I also want to apologize for Mr. Romney calling you Schreiber.
Par for the course.
All right. The first time Mr. Romney raised your book on the campaign trail that we know about a couple of weeks ago, he said in the book, talking about you, he talks about how Larry Summers, who was the president's chief economic advisor, advised the administration that if they put in place Obamacare, it would slow down the recovery. He repeated that in the soundbite that you just heard last night. Just for the record, maybe in a way that he will understand, is that what's reported in your book?
No. The argument, if I understand it correctly, is that there was something sort of intrinsic to the American, the Affordable Care Act, the Health Care Reform Act, the expansion of government or whatever it was, that would slow down the recovery, would hurt the economy, and that, despite knowing that, they went ahead and did it anyway. I found no evidence of this. I encountered no administration official who felt that way. They all thought this was a good thing to do. It was in the long-term interest of the economy, and they had no inkling. There was never any discussion that this would be something that would actually crimp the recovery going forward.
While you have been put under the spotlight here, in particular, this particular part of the argument in your book has been put under the spotlight, as far as I understand what you were reporting there in the context of those discussions between Larry Summers and President Obama, that was about, in the context, I guess, of your interview with Larry Summers, that was about whether or not passing health reform essentially used up so much political capital that they could not pursue a second round of stimulus spending. It was about what to focus administration time on, not what there would be economic, slack for.
Exactly. Yeah, I was making a basic opportunity cost argument that if you throw all of your energy and all of your capital behind this big reform initiative, it's possible that it's going to crowd out your opportunities to do other things like pass another round of stimulus, as you say. And, in fairness, I think I certainly came to the conclusion that was a possibility, that it did prevent them, or at least complicate their efforts to go back and get more stimulus. And I think, certain Obama economic advisors at the time raised this concern, but again, there was never any discussion of this idea that the act itself would somehow damage the economy, and there was never anything, for that matter, said with certainty or even high probability that by doing this you are sort of dooming us to a slow recovery. This was, the standard conversation that goes on within any administration about the trade-offs between different policy initiatives, and obviously the president felt that the possibility, the chance of doing health care was sufficiently important that it was worth the trade-off.
Noam, since Mitt Romney has been talking about your book on the campaign trail, and at least these two instances, I don't know, there may be more, have you had any communication with the campaign? Did you get any response after your initial note that you published at the New Republic saying that you were being misread?
No, I've been in touch with them. I consider myself a reporter. I report on both the Obama campaign and the Romney campaign. I try to be sort of as disinterested and respectful as I can be. I've certainly been in touch with them about other things, but we have not discussed this directly.
Well, if they don't want to talk to you about it and they do want to talk to me, please, send them my way.
I will point them in your direction.
Yeah, that'll work. Noam Schreiber, senior editor at The New Republic. The new book is called The Escape Artists, How Obama's Team Fumbled the Recovery. Noam, thanks very much for being here and helping us understand this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We will be right back.
Rachel Maddow Show uses Cisco telepresence for face-to-face interviews.